reconvene the Parker Town Council meeting for October 17th at 7:05. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first item up on our agenda is public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for town residents and other interested individuals to speak to items not on the agenda for tonight. The comment period is limited to the first 30 minutes of the meeting, and then if comments go longer, we will conclude at the end of the meeting with that. You'll each have 3 minutes as indicated on the clock above our heads. So, a couple of ways to do it. You can come down and make public comment on items not on the agenda. We do ask you to sign up first. If you've done that, I'll call you down and then you can do a round robin after that. So first up, I have on items not on the agenda is Debbie King. Ms. King, come on down. Yes, ma'am. I don't even know how to run this thing, so don't be too intimidated by me.
Okay. Do I have to talk here?
Yes, ma'am. And if you will, do you have something to show? We can.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah. Perfect. So, Ms. King, if you'll state your name and address for the record, and then I'll start your 3 minutes, and you can see the timer clicking above me.
Okay. Debbie King, 21133 Saddleback Circle, which is in Hidden River 2. Subdivision under the HOA of Hidden River 2.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
So we've had a parking dispute going on since July, and I'll try and point to, can I move this a little bit? So the drawing quickly shows our residence is here, and then this dispute is between 21120. We noticed they started parking cars where we've been parking, which is right here, for like the last 5 or 6 months. We park a truck over here. We bought a corner lot on purpose, and noticed these other 2 cars were encroaching upon over by the fire hydrant. So in July, we asked if they didn't mind moving their cars over here. They said, we will not be doing that. So we've gone to the HOA, we've had the police out 3 different times, and what ends up happening is that this homeowner, not only does he refuse, but he parks his car right here directly in front of our house and calls this spot his own parking spot. So, and then he jockeys his cars around, to make a long story short, so that he either parks in front of our house or over here while there's no cars in their garage or their driveway. So when I looked at our covenants, it said, and we're assuming, one vehicle that's parked there in red, it's been there now for 5 weeks and it has not been moved. So I looked at our covenant, which described an abandoned or inoperable vehicle shall be defined as an automobile, blah, 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 which has not been driven under its own propulsion for 72 hours or longer. So I had a community officer out there last Tuesday. He said, I don't care about what your HOA guidelines say or rules. I think this is in the covenant. So then I went to the the municipal code, and it also mentioned an abandoned vehicle, and it talked about an abandoned vehicle which is in a public parking lot for a period of time longer than 48 hours. So it's, to me, it's a little bit unclear. The model traffic code I also looked at talked about an abandoned vehicle. So basically, HOA puts it on the Parker Police. Parker Police throw it back onto HOA and says that it's they're lazy. So who is right? Who enforces the 72-hour rule? So that's why I'm here.
Great. Thanks, Ms. King, for those comments. Ms. King, so Tom Williams is our acting town manager, and I'm going to have him follow up on this. We've got your information here, so I'm going to have him and the chief follow up with you
Okay.
on that to get that clarity. All right. Anyone else for public comment tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed with the agenda and move on to reports, items, and comments from mayor and council. I think I'll start over to the sparsely populated section over here, and Councilmember Pogue.
I don't have any further comment at this time.
Great, Councilman Hendricks?
Yes, I attended the Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum a week ago for the upcoming election. Also, I'm a member of the Legend School Accountability Committee, so I attended a meeting for that high school. Things are going well. Kids are learning, which is great. And Parker Senior Center, they're having a fundraiser coming up in November at Black House Tavern, so on November 6th. So look for marketing materials on that coming up on social media. Thank you.
Great, Councilman Dyak?
Thank you very much. Let's see here. On the 5th, I was part of the Douglas County Transportation Forum. We're getting ready to consider about $20 million of new transportation/multimodal funding. So we just talked collaboratively as a county about that. We also got updates to the interchange projects within Douglas County, Happy Canyon, Lincoln, and Crystal Valley. On the 13th, I had an E470 budget workshop. The high-level information there, the authority is expecting a 3% reduction in traffic or revenues, and they will correspond expense reductions of 2 to 3% to match that. And due to our recent inflation endeavors, that is going to increase our capital construction 5-year budget by $125 million. So that's very profound. And currently, in 2022, traffic is 94% of projections. That is all I have, Mayor.
Great. Councilmember Barrington?
Thank you, Mayor. On October 4th, I attended the Tough Shed grand opening. And on October 6th, I attended the Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. And October 7th, we had a council budget retreat. And October 15th, just this past Saturday, I volunteered for the Parker Task Force food drive. They had a great turnout. And I know this is just a difficult time for just not only those in need, but for the supporters. So I know they appreciated everyone that showed up for them. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
First, I'd like to just acknowledge and thank Miss King for coming out tonight. It's always a pleasure to see our residents and also hear their disputes, and hopefully that will get resolved for you. I did have coffee with the Parker Chamber of Commerce and just caught up with them like I do once a month. We did attend a budget retreat, all of us at the town council, to discuss the budget for a half a day. We also went to a networking event at the Cherokee Ranch with all the other elected officials in Douglas County and the Douglas County Commissioners. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Laura. All right. For me, I attended the inaugural meeting today of the Douglas County Economic Development Collaborative that we signed at the Cherokee Ranch. So we're a part of it. It's up and running. And really the gist of it is to Douglas County working together to bring new economic development opportunities and figure out what it is we want to have here in Douglas County, what we want to go after, and what we want to try and project into our county. So attended by all the municipalities, Douglas County, et cetera. So it was really good. But on a personal note, I just want to say to this council, thanks for stepping in over the last couple weeks as I've been recovering here. I appreciate all of you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Dyak, thanks for taking the helm here. Acting Mayor Pogue, thanks for signing us into the collaborative, and that was awesome. But all of you, thanks for attending ribbon cuttings, business meetings, and everything in my absence. I appreciate it very much, and certainly to our staff, our directors, thanks for all you did during that time too. So moving on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion on consent items ordinance unless council votes to remove an item for individual discussion. Ordinances on the consent agenda are for introduction only and will not be removed for any discussion. So council, you have consent agendas, items A through K for your consideration.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilmember Pogue, seconded by Councilmember Hendricks. Pogue?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. I should have noted at the beginning of the meeting, Councilmember Rivero is out this evening. First up on our public hearings is resolution number 22-052. And Bryce, you don't look like Jeremiah, unless my eyes are going too, so.
Unfortunately, Jeremiah is ill today, so I'm here on his stead.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and open this. I'm going to open up the public hearing at 7:16 for resolution number 22-052, a resolution to adopt an update of the Parker 2035 master plan.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. As noted before you tonight is a minor update to the 2035 master plan. Oop. Apologize, I'm getting a little, there we go. I have to slow my clicking roll. Parker 2035 Master Plan serves as a 20-year policy document that provides vision and direction for a number of elements of our community, including transportation. 2035 Master Plan, as you know, is a statement of town policy that gives a long-range perspective on how our community grows and helps improve our quality of life. It's not the land development ordinance, nor a specific development plan or project. Town Council adopted the 2035 Master Plan back in 2012. As you know, it's a living document and changes over time. Tonight, the 2022 update is adding reference of the Parker Road Corridor Plan, which was adopted as an element of the master plan back in 2019. So really, there are three minor revisions, and again, it's really just connecting the two documents. One is in Chapter 6, a change, an addition of a strategy to make informed land use decisions based on recommendations and strategies from the Parker Road Corridor Plan. Also, and then added in Chapter 10 is a paragraph regarding the Parker Road Corridor Plan, kind of a summary paragraph, and then one more strategy, 6E, work with CDOT to implement recommendations and strategies from the Parker Road Corridor Plan. Staff recommends that Town Council adopt the update to the Parker 2035 Master Plan. As always, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Great, so let's start with staff questions. Councilman Dyak, questions on that?
No questions at this time.
Councilmember Barrington?
Do you know how many times in the past 10 years we have had to make changes? I understand it's a living document, but just out of curiosity.
Sure, and I don't off the top of my head, but if I were to give kind of an educated guess, looking back, somewhere around 9 or 10.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
No questions.
Councilman Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Pogue?
Yes, I would like a clarification of the changes that you're proposing in Chapter 6.
In what sense? I'm sorry.
Well, you're saying you're making changes. I'd just like you to go over what it is you're changing.
So it is actually simply just the added strategy, which cross-references the Parker 2035 Master Plan with the Parker Road Corridor Plan that was adopted.
And that's it, okay.
And that's
I just
it.
felt we all needed a little more clarification.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of changes with this proposal.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. With that, I'm going to open it up for public comment at 7:19. Anyone from the public wishing to make comments on resolution number 22-052? Seeing none, I'm going to close it at 7:20 and bring it back to the council for some final comments and any debate. Councilman Dyak.
No debate. This is just trying to ensure that our Parker Road plan is being considered within our master plan. So I'm agreeable with it.
Great. Councilmember Barrington?
No debate either. I think so much can change in 20 years that it has to be a living document, and it needs to be revisited because things come up. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So, thank you. I'm okay with this.
Great. Councilmember Hefta?
Yes, I'm in favor of this, working with CDOT to implement recommendations and strategies for the Parker Road corridor is always one of our goals that we've been doing ongoing for a very long time. So to put that in writing in the transportation chapter is an excellent idea.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No comment.
Councilmember Pogue?
Yeah, I would agree that, I'm not sure what you're recommending is new within Chapter 10, but I know it's been ongoing for a very long time. So is it just an attempt to codify what's going on? That's what I'm looking at.
Great. With the public hearing having closed at 7:20, I'll entertain a motion on resolution number 22-052.
I move to approve resolution number 22-052.
Second.
Motion is made by Councilmember Hendricks, seconded by Councilmember Hefta. Pogue?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Next up is the first of our two ordinances for tonight. Ordinance number 3.362 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to amend section 13-10-090 of the Parker Municipal Code concerning utilities. Director Fusa.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. As you've indicated, I'm here to present on proposed ordinance 3.362, which would amend the Land Development Ordinance, Title 13 of Municipal Code regarding utilities. But first, a little background and summary on this topic. So as you may know, as I'm sure you know, new development in the town requires that applicants, the town, and utility providers coordinate the location and design of utility service to individual lots. In most cases, side and rear yard utility easements have been used for service down to the individual lot level, especially for residential lots, including but not limited to electric service. This is and has been the town's design preference regarding utility easements. So the issue is that CORE, which is the town's utility partner and electric service provider, recently proposed a revision to their policy and standards for the location and design of electric service, to promote the use of front yard utility easements for serviced individual lots with residential development. And this precipitated at the staff level quite a bit of discussion and some concern about that new revised approach, which we've discussed with the Planning Commission last week and with you here tonight. By way of clarification or updating, I did want to advise you, Mr. Mayor, and the council that at CORE staff's request, CORE staff did meet with town staff last Wednesday, October 12th, to discuss the proposed ordinance and this issue of front yard utility easements versus side and rear yard utility easements. The CORE staff advised the town and town staff, including me, that they have abandoned that proposal to revise their utility policy and standards. And so there is no change from their perspective. I do believe we have a CORE representative here tonight, and you likely will hear from them on this topic. Nonetheless, I think this issue raises some issues with regard to the state of the current town ordinance regarding utilities, including for utility easement location and design. So we're proceeding here tonight for your consideration. The use of front yard utility easements as opposed to side and rear yard utility easements raises a number of concerns. You see those articulated on the slide in front of you. I'll step through them very quickly to try and summarize them. Front yard utility easements is an approach to utility service that generally conflicts with town policy, practices, and standards. It has the potential to create a negative visual impact on the town and on neighborhoods through the proliferation of above-ground equipment, so think pedestals and transformers in front yards. It has the potential to detract from quality of life by impacting our community standards for new development, because it would limit landscaping within front yards by virtue of the easement. It may have a detrimental impact on community character because new residential development using front yard utility easements can be and often is of lesser design quality, particularly as to site landscaping and the overall look and feel of a new residential community. Front yard easements may impede town efforts to promote a desirable visual environment with new residential development. Again, think less landscaping, more above-ground equipment in front yards. And then finally, as I indicated, the town's land development ordinance at section 131090 currently has limited standards that supports the town's design preference on utility easements. So this ordinance and the code amendments around it would address those concerns. The response of the town by staff in consultation with the council has been to prepare this ordinance tonight for your consideration to address those concerns. We think that the proposed ordinance 3.362 would, number one, in its construction, maintain current standards, which are very limited. It would add new standards to require the use of side and rear yard utility easements where none exist today. And it would include applicants the option for a modification or waiver of standards on two conditions. Number one, if a utility refuses to provide service with a side yard and rear yard utility easement design, or if there's a hardship, and that hardship's related to, let's say, unique characteristics of a property, steep slopes, floodplain, et cetera, and is not a self-imposed hardship. We think the approach of the ordinance has several benefits. One is that it would support the town's design preference for the use of side and rear yard utility easements. It would provide clarity about the town's policy and standards for utility service design to the individual lot level. And it would protect the town in the event a utility provider changes their utility design standards in the future by the promulgation of these new standards. And that is my summary. And I think a picture always helps. I know it certainly does for me. So what do we mean by side and rear yard utility easements? In this illustration, which I found, and that I've marked up, it shows kind of a prototypical two-lot residential development. The little structures in the middle are kind of depicted homes. You then have around the lot on all four sides setbacks, front yard setback, rear yard setback, two side yard setbacks to each side of the home. I've overlaid on that in blue, kind of a powder blue, text box, kind of the location and depiction of the proposed standards for side and rear yard utility easements. So here you can see it would typically result in each individual residential lot having one side yard utility easement for electric service to that lot. That easement needs to be kept clear. Town staff has discussed with Core, and Core staff certainly has discussed with town staff the need to keep these utility easements clear of obstructions. Think window wells, stairs, wing walls, even foundation and footing systems below ground. And so we both understand and support Core's request to keep these utility easements clear and are prepared to work with them to make that happen and address any issues in process that might allow that to happen going forward. Example 2 is an example from in town of what we're trying to prevent by virtue of these new standards. And here you can see two typical, fairly recent residential lots which have front yard utility easements and then above-ground utility equipment within them. And these new standards seek to mitigate and minimize the amount of above-ground utility equipment in front yards and front yard utility easements in residential developments to maintain community character, support community expectations for residential development, and promote a desirable visual environment. So, in conclusion, we have a recommendation. The first recommendation, which I neglected to add to this slide, is that the Planning Commission, at its public hearing last Thursday, recommended by a vote of 6-1 that Town Council approve ordinance number 3.362. Staff recommends approval of the aforementioned ordinance. You have that motion in front of you if you wish to act on it, and I'm available, Mayor, for comments and questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, John. We'll start off with staff questions for Director Fusa. Cheryl, you want to start off?
Yeah, I do have a question, and that is, I didn't see anything in here that the utilities are underground and not up on poles, correct? Or is that in another location?
No, so correct, this ordinance that Councilmember Pogan for you for consideration does not address that issue. Our ordinance, I believe it's in Title 10, has a requirement that basically precludes that type of utility design approach, think transformers and wires on poles above ground. Where those exist in town, those are very old and predate current ordinances and standards. Think some of the overhead electric service along Parker Road that the town is working with undergrounding in segments and phases and partnering with CORE on that effort.
Okay, I just didn't see anything in here, and I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that we're not allowing them to put up poles for their wires.
So this ordinance doesn't address that scenario or circumstance particularly. It does allow above-ground equipment, principally in the rear yard utility easement on the individual lot level. That above-ground equipment is expansive, kind of in the way it's phrased. So it typically, though, would include pedestals and transformers, which is what happens today and what has happened in most residential developments in the town. It also allows equipment in a side yard easement located behind a home in the backyard, where having that equipment above ground in the rear yard utility easement is infeasible.
As long as Parker has the issue of above-ground wiring covered somewhere else, that's fine.
We do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Councilman Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilman Dyke?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. John, we're about 85% built out. Is the rear and side easements, are they typical? Are they atypical right now? What was that process in the past to this potential CORE revised policy that they abandoned?
So the prevailing pattern of development in the town with existing and pre-existing residential development is that they incorporate, by and large, and principally side and rear yard utility easements at the individual lot level. The town for many years has, through its good working relationship with CORE, has followed that standard. CORE has allowed it and approved that standard of side and rear yard utility easements. So with certain exceptions, the two pictures I've shown are from the overlook at Cherry Creek neighborhood, which is a fairly new neighborhood, where the topography, the steeply sloping site from Matzenbacher Road down to Cherry Creek floodplain really dictated the use of a front yard utility easement approach. We've been hopeful that that would certainly be the exception. When this new policy and standard was promulgated, it got our attention and caused us to propose a code amendment in response, which you're considering tonight. But by and large, most neighborhoods have side and rear yard utility easements.
Okay, and with this proposed CORE's proposed revision, did the proposed revision actually get operationalized? Meaning that when we go through a referral process, developers or active applications get submitted to the various utilities and other interested parties. Did this get operationalized to the point of creating potential confusion for active applications?
Yes. were and are several active development applications for residential development where during the review process, the town sends proposals out to our review partners, including but not limited to CORE. And CORE staff commented on this new approach requiring front yard utility easements. So we had several developers amend their development plans and proposals to adhere to that CORE comment and abandon the previously planned and designed side and rear yard approach. And that has caused them delay. The applicants have been caused delay by virtue of that situation and scenario. And the town and town staff have been working with them to try and allow them to move forward. This proposed code is one of the tools we're seeking approval for to allow these pending applications to advance.
Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington.
Yeah, I have several questions. Thank you. So if we approve this ordinance this evening as is, it doesn't mean that it can't be amended or changed if it's causing unnecessary delays or it's not set in stone.
So that's correct, Councilmember Barrington. The town and the town council always has the ability to amend or further amend an ordinance, even one that's recently adopted and enacted. I would use the example of our recent prairie dog management ordinance, which after original adoption was amended twice further to address issues with administration and implementation, and that both private parties and the public brought to our attention. I think that certainly is the case here. If there are issues that applicants and utilities bring to town staff, we would certainly discuss them with the council, and if council thought they were important, you could always further amend the ordinance to address issues and make this ordinance improved in its application and its outcomes.
Okay, and if there is a hardship that is demonstrated, how often do you see that happening? That there would be an exception?
So you are correct that the ordinance, as it should, has some options and allows a waiver or a modification of the standards if there's a hardship condition. That hardship condition is related to the physical characteristics of any property. Again, think steep slopes, floodplain, unique topographic conditions. And so we occasionally see hardship requests in terms of development applications from time to time. I think we might or would see that here on occasion. But I think the important point is that it's our experience over many years of working with our development partners, residential developers, commercial developers, and the home builder community, that if they have advance notice of the standards that this town or any jurisdiction they're working in, if they have advance notice of the standards and criteria about how to plan and design their development, our partners will almost always plan and design their developments to comply with the standards and criteria. I expect that would be the case here, where applicants and home builders and developers would have knowledge and advanced knowledge of these updated standards, and they would work with their design professionals and town staff to achieve compliance with these updated standards kind of on a going forward basis. And they would also tell us in doing so if there were issues or challenges in achieving compliance. You can be sure that we're going to get that feedback. And as we get that feedback, we'll review it and consider it at the staff level and also update the council. And at some point, if those issues and challenges in achieving compliance rise to the level of warranting town council attention, you might direct us to further amend the code to solve them.
Okay. And is there currently, what the process for letting all stakeholders know what is happening within, I mean, is there some sort of a coordinated approach where we do get our stakeholders involved in decisions like this? Because obviously it's affecting a lot of developers and builders and?
So typically, if it was a town-initiated master plan, standard, development of a standard, amendment to a standard, the town has a very strong commitment to that kind of multifaceted outreach, public, stakeholders, affected applicants, developers, et cetera. Here, this ordinance is a response to CORE, implementing a new revised policy and standards without advanced knowledge or consultation to the town and town staff. So this is not the typical process or approach that we would use at the town and as town staff in the Community Development Department, where if we were initiating a proposal of our own volition, we would go through a fairly extensive, multifaceted outreach. Here, this ordinance is a reaction to CORE's proposal, revised policies and standards. So it's a response. So there, I would say the outreach ought to have been done by CORE to this town, other towns and communities in their jurisdiction, as well as affected developers, property owners, and home builders.
Okay. Last question, I promise. These obstructions, what is the biggest offender? Is it window wells?
It varies.
Okay.
Window wells are certainly one of the major problems that CORE has identified for impeding their ability to use side and rear yard utility easements. But it can also be, for example, stairways. It can be wing walls. It can be retaining walls. It might even be a structural element that's called a counterfort, which is part of a foundation and footing system. So CORE has been very clear. In fact, at their meeting last Wednesday with the town staff, they did indicate that they are open and willing to review and approve the use of side and rear yard utility easements, and they're not committed to a front yard utility easement approach only. Speaking only for staff, we appreciate that. We think that's the right approach and position to be in. But they made very clear that in agreeing to be open to the use of side and rear yard utility easements and in being willing to approve them, that they do need to be made clear of these obstructions, which would impede access for the technicians and repair people if a line or a transformer goes bad. We understand that requirement to keep the easements clear. We support that requirement to keep the easements clear. And we're prepared going forward to work with them on strengthening the town's development review process and construction inspection process to partner with them to make sure that where projects have approved side and rear yard utility easements, they are truly clear of obstructions to meet the CORE standard, address their concerns on operations, maintenance, and safety, and work together as we have for many years. And I will say, I do think our process could use some strengthening, so we're prepared to partner with them with regard to that.
Thank you for putting up with all my questions.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hefta.
My legalese might be rubbing off on her over here. So when was the last time that we actually updated this ordinance?
So I'm going to give you an indirect answer, Councilmember Hefta. I've been working for the town since August 12th, 2013, and this ordinance has not been amended or revised since that time. If it was amended or revised, it would have been prior to that.
And then just looking at the big picture, all the other towns in Douglas County, do you know of any other town that may have taken such action to think about updating their ordinance?
So I can't speak for the other communities, but I can tell you that the town and town staff have been both communicating and coordinating with several other jurisdictions, including the town of Bennett in Adams County, the city of Castle Pines, and the town of Castle Rock here in Douglas County, and the city of Woodland Park, which I'm geographically challenged, Teller County, if I had to guess. I think it's Teller County, have all expressed concern about this recent CORE change in policy and standards, which I believe they've rescinded or retracted. And so we are coordinating that. I'm not aware that any of those other jurisdictions are proposing a code amendment like the town of Parker is. Their staff have told me that they're at least considering it, and they're watching very closely what the town of Parker and the town of Parker Town Council does.
Okay. And just last question, to the extent that you can answer it. I myself am a homeowner, and I do have a rear backyard utility easement on my property. I do have some nice trees around it. And if there was any obstruction to that Corps couldn't get to, it's not the town's responsibility to reach out to me. It's actually Corps' responsibility to reach out to me and send me a letter telling me they can't get to my utility easement in the backyard. Is that not correct?
Well, I'm going to stay away from the legal aspects of that because I'm not an attorney. But what I can say is that the utility easement is a property right in favor of the utility, whether it's Corps or another utility that has infrastructure and equipment in the easement in question. They have the ability and the right to enforce their easement for the operation, maintenance, and safety, both of their infrastructure and their personnel. And certainly in that scenario, Corps or any other utility would have the right to enforce their easement and adherence to their standards if there was an obstruction in that easement that caused a problem in terms of operations, repair, and safety, whether it's trees, vegetation, structure. And I can't speak to how a utility would do it further than that. I believe we have a Corps representative here tonight. Perhaps they can shed further light on how they would approach that scenario.
And then lastly, in your friendly chit-chat with Corps representatives, were any statistics given, numbers on any type of access to the electrical boxes? Was that given? Any numbers given in your negotiations or discussions about why this conversation arose initially in August? It would seem a little interesting to me to have a company put out a standard without statistics of why and then retract it and then try to negotiate. So I guess in my legal world, that's not the way I do things as an attorney. And I was just trying to get an understanding of why a statement would be put out and then retracted. And then if there was some statistics attached to it, then that would make sense to me.
So in answer to your question, no, we did not discuss statistics around this issue, either in prior conversations before August or at last week's meeting. And to be fair to Corps and Corps staff, nor did I or my staff ask for those statistics. So I can't really speak to that issue or offer any statistics in answer to your question, Councilmember Hefta. What I can say is that we have standards and expectations for landscaping, community character, aesthetics, and kind of the attractiveness of our residential development. Those are kind of policies and standards around those policies. When Corps and utility staff talk to us about the need to have reasonable, let's say, access and location for their infrastructure, for operation, safety, and maintenance, we understand that, and we certainly respect them and partner with them on that. Here, we've heard from Corps staff that it's partly an issue, I think, of operations, maintenance, and safety, and we take them at their word. We understand that that's an issue, and we believe them that that's an issue. We think we can work with them on the application of this ordinance if council were to adopt it, as well as our partners and the developer and the home building community were prepared to do that, and try and meet Corps standards on keeping the easements clear of obstructions. We think that's important, and we hope the development and the home builder community will agree that it's important to try and use side and rear yard utility easements so we have residential development of the highest quality, meeting community norms and expectations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions up here? All right. So we're going to go ahead and open this for public comment on ordinance number 3.362. Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment on this ordinance, please come on forward. I do have, I believe, three core, Mr. Baudier, Mr. Schneider, and Ms. Gardner. Come on up. And if you will state your name and address for the record, then I'll start your 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor and Council. My name is Jeff Baudier. I'm here on behalf of Core Electric Cooperative, where I'm the CEO, and our address is 5496 North US Highway 85 in Sedalia, Colorado 80135, and my name is spelled Baudier, B-A-U-D-I-E-R.
I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. I try and sound fancy.
No, that's fine.
All right.
That's perfect.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Council and Mayor, for the time to talk tonight. I'm really, quite frankly, asking tonight for more time. The premise upon which this ordinance is based, as stated in the preamble at least, is based upon a misunderstanding. CORE has not, in fact, mandated front lot easements in Parker. CORE was simply attempting to maintain, as it always has, that when there is no front lot easement, both rear and side lot easements are necessary, and they must be unobstructed. It's not true that we did not advance outreach with the town of Parker at this. As a matter of fact, we had many conversations with Mr. Bo Martinez, who was our primary contact on this, before he left. And we apparently do not have the history of those conversations that benefit. So what's changed? Our policies didn't change. What's changed is the practice of building ultra-high density housing in Parker. I do agree that a picture shows a lot. And as you'll see, there is a very big problem with side lot easement enforcement and availability of access in Parker. But to get to the procedural matters, despite us being the basis for this ordinance, we've not been allowed to speak. We asked to speak at the meeting 2 weeks ago when the ordinance was read. We were not allowed to speak. We asked to present fully at today's meeting. We were only allowed 3 minutes. We asked to speak at the Planning Commission meeting. We were given 6 minutes, and we were not allowed to answer questions. We have a bunch to say about this ordinance, and 3 minutes or 6 minutes, a total of 9 minutes, is not enough. The ordinance, as it's written, creates many unanticipated problems, as I'm sure you've seen by the letter that we submitted, as well as that submitted by Excel and the Home Builders Association. As written, the ordinance would drive up electricity costs for all of Parker residents. It will create safety risks for our citizens as well as for core employees. It will increase outage duration. It applies to every utility, not just electricity, including wet utilities. You can't have streetlights with this ordinance. This ordinance will kill development as it's drafted. More importantly, it does not solve this problem of easement encroachment issues. The legal truth is that the town of Parker owns easements. Our rights come through our franchise, which give us the right to use the city easements. It is the city's obligation to own, maintain, and enforce easements, including side lot easements. That has not been done.
Great. If you can wrap up your comments.
In every situation where these easements, side easements are challenged or don't exist, the council will be required to make a hardship determination. That will happen in every circumstance. It will place an extensive burden on this council and further delay of development. We're asking that we be allowed more time to work this through and to pass an ordinance that will not require amendment. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, Mr. Schneider? Oh. Ms. Gardner? Great, thank you. And just for the record, if you'll state your name and address.
Yep, Liz Gardner, and I'm with Xcel Energy, and our address is 1800 Larimer Street, Denver, Colorado 80202.
Great, go ahead.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. As I said, I'm Liz Gardner. I'm the area manager for Xcel Energy for Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas County. We are pleased to provide natural gas service to the town of Parker and to your residents and are grateful for our partnership. In reviewing the proposed amendment, we wanted to share some of our comments and concerns, as I believe this would also apply to natural gas utilities as well. We did share some of these concerns with John just last week after we were made aware of these potential changes just about a week before the initial reading. At Xcel Energy, we currently do not mandate front lot gas meters in service. However, it is our preference and our standard. If needed to accommodate a particular development, customer, or municipal project, we will absolutely place a service in the rear, but would strongly prefer to handle that on a case-by-case basis rather than it being a one-size-fits-all. Our primary concerns for these changes are really threefold: safety, speed of service, and cost. When a gas meter is placed in a side or rear of the house, it is more difficult and dangerous to shut off the gas in an emergency. For example, in the case of a house fire, we typically shut off the gas at the meter. If these items are behind a fence or behind a building, it slows our ability to perform this work and may cause significant danger to our gas crews. With regard to service delays, gas is required to conduct leak surveys on all of our mains, our meters, above ground and below ground equipment. If the mains and meters are located in a rear easement, this becomes difficult if the yards are fenced in or if the services are under concrete versus in grass, which is typically the case in a front lot easement. Fences and concrete will need to be removed, which is more difficult to restore and much more disruptive to your residents. There is also a higher likelihood that your residents will have landscaping that will need to be removed in the case of a service, services being performed. With regard to cost, builders and developers typically plan for installation of meters in the front of the structure. So a change in design, typical layout, et cetera, may cause additional design costs and challenges for builders, as indicated in the HBA letter. Proposed changes could increase costs for the service installation as well when we're unable to bore the service directly to the structure due to spacing limitations. Xcel Energy will likely trench from the side lot to the structure. It would require more materials, increased labor costs due to these extra requirements, which most likely will go from the developer right to the homeowner in already a very expensive home market. Finally, mandating all of the utilities where there's often less room in the back may cause significant challenges, allowing us to all and safely install our infrastructure with the clearances we need to maintain and operate our system effectively. These are really just a few of our concerns. Again, we were just brought into the conversation right before the consensus hearing just a week ago, and really would have the same request to delay a decision on this so that we can properly engage in the conversation with town council and other impacted parties. We believe that through that collaboration, this will be a more positive outcome for all involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Sir, come on down. And again, name and address for the record.
Absolutely. Morgan Cullen. My address is 9033 East Easter Place, Suite 200, Centennial, Colorado, 80112.
Great. Go ahead, sir.
Mayor, members of the Parker Town Council, my name is Morgan Cullen. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Home Builders Association of Metro Denver and our active builders in the town who have concerns over the proposed ordinance on second reading this evening to the town's municipal code regarding utility placements for residential development. In Parker here, the HBA represents 8 different builders and developers with 631 registered permits so far this year. We had a stakeholder meeting last week about this particular ordinance, and neither the Home Builders Association nor the active builders were aware of this ordinance. We submitted a letter on Thursday to that effect, but none of us were consulted about this ordinance prior to the first reading hearing, I think a week or two ago. So sorry for the late notice, but we're trying to get this, trying to get involved as quickly as possible. Based on the information that was presented by the first reading hearing by the Town Council on October 3rd, it is our understanding that the town is considering limiting the utility installations solely to back and side yards for all future development. And I think it's important to note that builders generally do prefer the installation of utilities in the back or side yards, specifically for the same reason the town does, right? Aesthetics, the integrity of the town, everything involved. But we do have some concerns about the proposal here before you tonight. The proposed ordinance, it appears, will require all requests for a variance be considered before the town council. This effectively eliminates any opportunity for collaborative communication and accommodation on a site-by-site basis. We're also concerned that this is going to create an unnecessary and costly delay throughout the entitlement process, since builders will now have to file a complaint with the PUC if the utility is unwilling to provide service, and then go before the town council to demonstrate hardship. This is also likely to create additional delays due to the inevitable backlog requests consuming larger amounts of time on the town council calendar. The ordinance could also limit flexibility and consideration of options for home product designs and density standards, and this could impact future housing affordability opportunities within the town. I guess I'd just like to reiterate that unfortunately, because our active builders, developers, and landscape architects in Parker were never consulted about the proposal prior to its introduction, none of these concerns have had an opportunity to be properly reviewed by us or even discussed with the town or with CORE. I believe, or the HBA believes, that any action to resolve these or other challenges associated with these types of utility installations or easements that will have a direct impact on the home building community should require a coordinated approach with the town, with CORE, with the home building community, so that we can come to a long-term solution that's going to be workable for everyone involved. Thank you for your time this evening.
Anyone else wishing to make a public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public hearing, public comment at 8:02, bring it back to the council. Councilman Dyak, you want to kick us off?
Well, I'm just kind of wondering, does Mr. Fusa have any response to the questions that have been brought to public comment, or just no comment?
Councilmember Dyak, I think what we heard was more commentary and comment on the proposal in front of the council tonight. What I would certainly say is that we disagree at the staff level with some of the claims as to the impacts here. I'm not standing here or sitting here this evening saying that there may not be any impacts. I think that goes back to my prior comments during our earlier conversation, that if there are issues in the applicability and the administration of the ordinance that turn out to be serious with regard to unintended impacts and consequences, we will be back to you for a further conversation and update at the staff level. And the council always has the ability to further revise and amend its code and this ordinance should you wish with regard to that. We think it's a carefully constructed ordinance. It's been reviewed internally many times at many levels. It is in response to CORE's actions, hence that is why it's taken the path that it has. And so here we are this evening.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is kind of an awkward sort of narrative for me. IREA CORE has been a great community partner over the years. I mean, quite honestly, I've had dealings just as a customer, as a contractor, consultant with them. Nothing but great things. Everything has been very easy for me and my experiences with IREA/CORE. They've always gone above and beyond. HBA, we certainly respect our home builders. We appreciate having them here, and the comments that we heard. It's just awkward because we're in opposition with them at this point in time. As called out by the narrative that Mr. Fusa provided, this was initially a defensive measure because there was a revision to policy that was being acted upon, unbeknownst to us, to our active applications, giving guidance to those people to make changes that we just were not aware of, quite honestly. And John, please interrupt if anything is inconsistent. So, for us, for the council, as with the HBA comments, we truly value having clear and concise direction. When I first came on here in 2013, I asked everybody, I go, how can I help you? How can I make it better? And one developer said, all we want is a predictable process. We want clear and concise rules, processes, and procedures. We don't want any variability. And later on, they wanted us to potentially reduce the review time. So interjecting this revised proposal, which has been retrenched, has kind of put some of the active applicants sort of in stasis. They don't know what to do and where to go, and they've lost time, and time is money. So, for me, I've read both the letters, and to me, I keep on coming back to something which is constructive and collaborative discussion. I think that needs to happen. It's unfortunate that it did not happen before this proposal, this Corps' revised proposal, came and was implemented to some of the referral comments. I heard Corps. We actually did ask Corps to come before a study session. I think we waited for about a month, and we heard nothing before we started down this road. So my apologies for the disconnect. I don't know where that letter landed. I don't know where it was sent, but I believe that council directed staff to create a letter. We got a copy of it as it was sent. So to me, I would like, regardless of the decision here, I would encourage all stakeholders to get together and to attempt to resolve, to make this right in their eyes, because council is open for business. Council wants to get things right. Council wants to provide clear direction to all of our stakeholders, and we want to reduce any kind of uncertainty within our process. Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington.
So are we still asking questions or commenting, or both?
Just
comment.
comment. Yep, unless you need something clarified based on public comment from John.
So I'm referring to the letter that was sent August 10th, and for nobody to have received this letter, and it looks like the world is CC'd on this letter. So I find it hard to believe that nobody actually received this letter. And I would like to even quote something from the letter. After discussing the issues and concerns with the mayor and town council, and in the hopes of obtaining more information, we invite CORE to attend a council study session at 5 p.m. on either August 22nd, September 12th, or October 10th. The study session would be an opportunity for CORE to present its position to the mayor and council and the broader Parker community, and would allow an opportunity for Parker officials to seek answers to the many questions and concerns that this new policy has raised. So I think that shows that we were definitely willing to talk. So I'm just a little bit confused why nobody got that letter. So comment and question.
John, any thoughts from you?
So I think thank you, Mayor, and I think along those lines, certainly that letter, we have acknowledgement from core staff that letter was received. In fact, the request for a meeting While the request for a meeting with the town and town council on an individual basis, core staff to town council, town staff, did not result in a scheduled meeting. There was a scheduled meeting that core requested and actually scheduled between core, the town, and the 4 other municipal partners that are concerned and involved in this issue. So that's Bennett, Castle Pines, Castle Rock, and Woodland Park. That meeting was scheduled for September 12th, and on September 6th, core staff sent a notification by email to this town and town staff and our municipal partners canceling the meeting and pledging to reschedule that meeting. To date, there's been no follow-up rescheduled meeting or action that I'm aware of to honor that commitment when the September 12th meeting was canceled. So there has been repeated and regular requests for communication, dialogue, and outreach that has not been returned and reciprocated, in this case by core.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hefta.
Well, I can always appreciate the excellent service that Core and Xcel Energy have always provided me as a family and my neighbors. So I would like to thank them for that, because we appreciate. I just talked to a relative in another state, and they constantly have outages. So thank you for that excellent service. But as my background dictates, I'm a woman of facts. And so I haven't heard a lot of facts tonight from Xcel or Core on this particular issue. I have not heard the facts. As I know it, I've been in Parker now since 2011, and I do have a rear lot utility easement on my property. I'm one of those folks that have it. I actually bought the property, and they asked me, "Do you intend on having a fence?" And I said, "No, I don't have a dog." They're like, "That's great," and there was the utility easement in the back, and our population now in Parker is about 60,000 plus people, and so I haven't heard the facts, I guess, from Core and Xcel Energy about these outages and price increases, this fear and disaster that might befell future residents if this ordinance is changed or these additions are made. I haven't heard actually even one example tonight of this matter of these outages and price increases and fear and disaster from having side and rear easements. And I know the lots are decreasing, and I know it's getting harder to put those utility easements in a specific area. And that, yeah, and in a lot of circumstances, probably the front's going to have to, there's probably going to have to be a front utility easement. But I just haven't heard the facts. I've just heard this fear and outages and price increases and disaster. And I think 60,000 residents are currently doing okay with their rear utility easements. So that's, my thoughts right now is that, hey, we're doing okay with this. And our staff has come to talk to us about an update in the ordinance.
Councilmember Hendricks.
I agree with my fellow council members. I mean, I view this as a defensive maneuver to protect our citizens. Things can change. We have the power to modify and adjust accordingly. If developers are aware of this, they can design around this or come to us with requests. So I don't need to belabor anymore. I'm fine with proceeding.
Councilmember Pogue.
And I would agree with the rest of my fellow council members. This is a defensive action based on communications from Core, and it was affecting one of our new major developments, and we felt we had to take action. So with that then, with all the dire threats, how much of Parker already has been developed with rear easements and side lot easements? If you are seeing a problem with those easement encroachments, then it's appropriate to call our community development office or our building permit office and say, that's not going to work for us. But just to unilaterally challenge us to say we have to go to the front yard, not going to happen. So with that, I agree with the rest of my council members, and I make a motion to approve ordinance number 3.362 on second reading.
Second.
Motion is made by Councilmember Pogue, seconded by Councilmember Hendricks. Pogue?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Next up on our ordinances is ordinance number 8.28.9 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to amend section 4.03.050 of the Parker Municipal Code concerning business licenses. Linda, are you sitting or are you?
I'll stand
Okay.
since John's sitting in my
Okay.
chair.
Pull that microphone way down. There you go. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present this evening a bill to amend Section 403.050 of the Parker Municipal Code concerning business licenses. During the 2022 legislative session, the Colorado Legislature passed Senate Bill 22032, which in part prohibits local taxing jurisdictions from charging a fee for a local business license to remote sellers. The act prohibits taxing jurisdictions from requiring retailers, remote sellers, to obtain a business license beginning in 2023. The town currently requires all entities that are engaged in business within the town to obtain a local business license, and we charge a biennial fee of $20 for the license. In order to create an equitable environment for those retailers that do have a physical presence within the town, staff proposes to amend Section 403.050 of the code to eliminate the fees to apply for a license or renewal of a business license entirely. Additionally, staff proposes to add language to the section to clarify that certain retailers will no longer be required to obtain a business license beginning July 2023 in compliance with state law. Do you have any questions?
I'm sure we do. Councilmember Pogue, would you like to
Yeah, I
start?
do. Part of the process with the retail sales license that we've had in the past is so we know who's in town and make sure that the town and taxes that are paid at these facilities are then remitted to the proper location, whether it's a state, the city or whatever. So what's the guarantee now? If we don't even know who's here, how are we going to guarantee that we have proper income?
For those businesses that have a physical presence in the town, coming into our town, or actually a brick and mortar store, they are still required to license. All remote sellers are required to obtain a sales tax license from the Colorado Department of Revenue. And the Department of Revenue has been tasked with this change of statute to provide the local jurisdictions the information to keep track of those retailers doing business in their communities. They will provide us with the same basic information we currently capture for those businesses. We will assign a business account number for those businesses, and we will keep track of the sales tax they remit through that process.
So what do you feel about the accuracy of the collection and reporting by the Colorado Department of Revenue?
The Department of Revenue is not doing the collection and reporting of the taxes. The taxpayers will be doing that either through the Parker systems that we currently have in place or through the state sales and use tax portal. That is a private company that provides one single place where remote businesses can remit all the sales tax they collect for every jurisdiction in the state of Colorado.
I guess the reason I question this is because I've, used online purchasing like a lot of people do, and I'm not sure that I am paying and being assessed the correct taxes when I go to an online facility, including Amazon. So my concern is that we place an unfair burden on our local retailers versus the online retailers.
The burden is exactly the same. So the online retailers have the burden to collect and remit our sales tax. And we have adopted the ordinance that matches the Wayfair standards. We are a member of the sales and use tax simplification team, and we allow our retailers that are remote to remit through the sales and use tax system that the state has provided. We capture the data from that system. We still have every bit of enforcement authority that we currently have in our code to the remote sellers. We just have to get the information from a different source.
So you're comfortable with this state requirement?
I'm comfortable with the state requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilman Dyke?
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions. I'll have comment.
Councilmember Hefta?
No questions.
Great. All right, with that, we were going to open this up for public comment at 8:21. Anyone in the room wishing to make public comment? Seeing none, we'll close it at 8:21 and bring it back and start the reverse order. Councilmember Hefta.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention and your briefing. This is going to make this easier and bring new businesses to our town, knowing that they don't have to pay this additional fee. And competition brings down the price, quite frankly, of all services. So thank you for your briefing and supporting this.
Councilmember Barrington?
Yeah, my comment would be whether, I guess, we like it or not, it's a Senate bill, and it basically prohibits us from taxing jurisdictions. So we're just following what was passed by the state. So I don't see how we can really argue not doing it or not complying with this.
Councilman Dyke?
Yeah, I mean, reduction of an additional fee, I think it's a positive. Putting online on the same plane as brick and mortar, or brick and mortar on the same plane as online, I think positive. Supportive.
Councilman Hendricks?
Ditto. Thank you.
Councilmember Pogue?
Yeah, and I would agree that, it'll make it easier, and I certainly don't want to charge a retail fee to our local businesses, especially if we can't do it to the online businesses. But I am concerned about the inequity that may occur.
Awesome. All right, Council, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 8.28.9.
I move to approve ordinance number 8.28.9 on second reading.
Second.
That motion was made by Councilmember Barrington, seconded by Councilmember Hefta. Pogue?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Next up on our contracts over $500,000 is the Harvey Open Space Access Improvements Capital Improvement Plan 18-012. And I think we got a double header here. Mr. Gill and Mr. Collins.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to bring to you a contract for starting the Harvey Open Space Project. It's been a long time coming, and we have the access improvements that we want to get done. Do we have the PowerPoint up? Yeah. No? Oh, okay. Guess there wasn't a PowerPoint in the folder, so I can just walk you through. So everybody's aware of the Harvey open space. It's 71.4 acres over just in the northeast corner of town, just down from Town Hall here. And that property was acquired in 2017 from Douglas County. We went through a community input process, came up with a master plan that was approved, and then acquired that property with a conservation easement on it. So that came along with some restrictions. We could only do soft surface trails, picnic shelters, fencing, soft surface parking lot, restroom, and signage. So we're working on the open space part of this project, but in order to get access to the property, we need to do some street improvements, curb cuts. We got modify the islands out there, and then also put some new signal poles in. So it was in there. Okay, that's all right. So yeah, I'm on the second one. So anyway, the building and construction improvements need to come first so we can get access to the property. So due to some long lead times on signal poles, we've decided that it'd probably be better to get that started underway this year, to get that put in, and then it'll more closely align with the open space project. And we do have a site plan application into the planning department right now for the open space, and we're on our second round of comments, so it's moving forward. So I anticipate that getting completed by the end of the year. And then Parks does have funding in the 2023 budget if it is approved to build the open space park. So if council approves that budget. So for the open space access improvements, did I go backwards? No. There we go. We did put out a public bid. We received 5 bids ranging from $910,934 to $1,097,537. It was a good bid process. 5 bids is good in this bidding climate right now. The bids were fairly tight as far as the numbers. So we think we got a really good bid from T&M Construction, and they were the low bid at $910,934. They've done a bunch of work around town, downtown, widening sidewalks and some other projects over the years, and performed pretty good work. And we've had good luck with them and not having change orders and those kind of things with that company. So on the construction schedule, if this gets approved tonight, the T&M can start probably here in November, and then they would work through about June to get the project done. That's our anticipated construction schedule based on weather and other things. If that happens, then it might stretch out a little bit. So staff recommends approval of a construction contract with T&M Construction for. It's coming up, but am I going the wrong way? Is it just not working? There we go. One more? No? Okay, well, I'll just keep going. We're recommending the approval of the construction contract with T&M for the $910,934. We do have funding in the 2022 Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Fund to cover those costs for that construction. So if you have any questions, I take those now.
Great. Tom, anything on your end? No?
They were very good bids. Only $800 separated the lowest bid and the second bid. So
Wow.
very good, yeah.
All right.
And I've had experience with T&M, as Brett was saying, they're very good and they're local. So it's nice.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, I'm going to start questions off for you guys with the champion of Harvey Space, Open Space, Todd Hendricks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if everything goes according to plan, I could be chasing butterflies next summer out there?
That's the plan.
No, I that would be a sight to see.
No, it wouldn't.
It would.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh, it would. Yeah, I'll make it that. I'll make it so. No, I had the opportunity to do a tour a couple years ago, and it's a great space. I believe it's 70 acres, roughly?
71.4.
Okay. I know that there's some people give grief about growth and development, but in actuality, the town of Parker has a lot of parks and open space, and this will be a crown jewel, along with hopefully future Salisbury Park North Park. But I think this will be a great amenity for the citizens, and I fully support this.
Councilmember Pogue, any questions on this?
Oh, yes. So I just wanted to ask, you gave us this graphic and showing all the different trails and stuff. Will this amount of money pay for all of those trails since they're soft surface?
So this is, again, the actual access improvements construction contract, so.
Okay, so just the access.
So just the access piece, yeah. If you look at the graphic, that graphic on the left.
The lower, yeah.
Yeah, it's the non-colored one. That's the project there. Yeah, there we go.
So do you have any idea how long it'll take to complete the soft surface trails and restroom facilities?
Well, like I said, we're in the site plan process now. If that gets all completed, we'll probably put out a bid in January. And then because of the market right now, we're going to give the contractors some leeway on when they can do the project, but we're anticipating they're going to want to build it during the warm months, spring and summer. So we're hoping that take it. So I'm anticipating between 3 to 5 months for the trails and parking and restroom.
But access
construction.
throughout will be open anyway, right?
Well, there's no access to Harvey now.
Will it be?
There won't be until we get the park completed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the project that we're asking for tonight is the roadway access into the
Yeah,
parking
well,
lot.
that's just that small part, so.
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
thank you.
Yep.
Councilman Dyak?
What was the engineering estimate on this?
752,500. So we're about 17% over the engineer's estimate. But that's kind of par for the course right now in the construction market.
I hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, the asphalt prices are crazy, and poles are high priced too.
I think everything's crazy.
Yeah.
I heard the construction, index is, 30%, 25, 30%,
In
so,
some cases, you're lucky you get it.
yep.
Councilmember Barrington?
So does this 910,000 and almost 911, does that include the traffic signal that's going to go there?
It does.
Yes. There'll be two traffic signals.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
And just out of curiosity, have you utilized the other companies before, 2 through 5?
Go back to the sheet here. I've used Double R excavating before on some projects when I worked at South Suburban, but I have not used, and Goodland Construction, but the other two have not. I don't know.
With Double R, they did the dog park in Parker, and they're a good group too. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, at 8:32, I'm going to open up for public comment. Anyone wishing to make comment in the room? Mary? Nothing? No. Penny? Anything? No? Okay, all right. All right, we'll close it at 8:32, bring it back to council for final comments. Councilmember Hefta?
I appreciate the process and your hard work in bringing this to council.
Councilmember Barrington?
I'm excited for this project as well. It's right behind my neighborhood, so I've been watching this since all the buildings were torn down, and so this will be great for our side of town.
Great. Councilman Dyak?
No comments.
Councilmember Pogue?
Yeah, thank you. I'm always an open space and parks fan, so thank you.
And Councilmember Hendricks?
I'm good. Thank you. Let's get this done.
All right, well then, with that, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I move to approve the staff recommendation as part of the regular agenda.
Second?
By Hefta. Motion is made by Councilmember Hendricks, seconded by Councilmember Hefta. Pogue?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. With no other business before the Parker Town Council, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion is made by Councilmember Pogue, seconded by Councilmember Hendricks. Pogue?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And we're adjourned at 8:33.